All right, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I am in InDesign and I'm at the new document window. I thought I'd start here so we could kind of get set up together correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and use the unit of inches because I know which page size, my page size should be in inches. And our page size for this project is an 8 by 10. And so we want to make sure that we set it up. It's not 8.5, 11, it's 8 by 10. All our pages are going to be the same, which is portrait. We know we're doing 6 pages and we want them to be facing. So you want to make sure facing is checked. Here's the most important thing. We are starting at page 2 because we are not going to have a cover. This is just going to be 3 spreads of 2 pages each. So we want to start at page 2 so that they come out side by side, not one above the other. Now here's where you can start putting your columns in. I'm going to go ahead and start with, I'm going to do an odd number. I'm going to do 5. No, I'm going to do 7. I'm going to do 7. I'm going to add my margins in right away too. If I keep them all linked, anything I do in one box will happen to all the boxes. As you can see, I'm going to unlink them. I'm going to start with a 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to, on the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and make it into an inch because I'm going to have space for folios. And I'm going to leave it at that. Say create. Okay, so now I can see, I'm going to open up my pages and you can see that I have 3 spreads that are sitting next to each other, 2 and 3, 4 and 5, and 6 and 7. If I hadn't changed the page number to 2, I would have had a single page at the top and a single page at the bottom. If yours looks like that, it's because your page number hasn't been changed to an even number. So you need to have your page number an even number to get them to line up like this. Okay, so the first thing we want to do before we get started is make sure that we're in the right workspace. You can do that up here on the main toolbar and make sure you're on typography. You can also do that under the window, workspaces, typography. Okay. And I do that because we really want to have all these type features at our fingertips as we're working. So I'm going to close the pages. I'm going to move my character styles into my bar here. You can just by grabbing any window that's floating out here, you can tuck it into this bar and it'll just line up over here on the side so that I have everything easily to reach over here on the side. Okay, so the type studies, and the reason we want to start with type studies is because we want to set up a baseline grid based on the leading of our type studies. Now, one of the things I noticed from a lot of us is we didn't really explore different leading and point sizes for our body copy in our type studies. So when we do our type studies, it is to explore not only different typefaces, but the way we set those different typefaces so that we can see what is actually going to be more legible, what's easier to read, what's going to work better with this typeface. All typefaces do not work the same at the same point size and leading, as you probably noticed with most of us setting the same point size and leading for all of our different typefaces. Notice how some of them were set tight together because they had a high X height, or some had a lower X height and felt more open in their leading. So you really want to explore that. And the reason is because before we get started with anything on our page, we kind of have to know what our leading is going to be so we can set up our baseline grid. I'm going to show you how we set up our baseline grid. we go under InDesign preferences. In an Apple computer, you're going to look at InDesign preferences, grids. If you are on a PC, your preferences is under the edit tab, and look for preferences under edit, and then you'll do the same. You'll find the same window. So find your preferences. If you're on a Mac, it's under InDesign. If you're on a PC, it's under edit. And go over here to grids. And then your grid window is going to pop up like this. And we want to start with our baseline grid. And here we're going to say we want to start at 0. It defaults to a 1/2 inch. We want to start at 0. At top of the margin. Now this increment every, that's the leading you want to make it. So that's the leading. I'm going to leave it at 12. That's the default. But you definitely want to make it the leading that's going to be right for your project. The view threshold should make it change that to 12.5. That's going to let us see it because we want to be able to see our baseline grid as we organize items on the page. And then we're going to say, okay. Now, as you can see, I don't see my grid. I actually have to turn it on. I have to go under View, Grids and Guides, Show Baseline Grid. And once I do that, I can then see my baseline grid. And the baseline grid is there to help us align elements on our page. The next thing I'm going to do is, depending on how you're designing, let's say you're going to do more of a hierarchical grid or something, maybe in the rule of thirds, where you want to organize your page in a more of a hierarchy. So our page is 10 inches tall. So let's see, 3, 6, 9, 3. I don't know. I don't have an exact measurement for that. I'm going to say 3. Just about 3.5. Oh, I want to change the color. Hold on. Let me show you how to do that. Layout. I want you to go to ruler guides, and they come, it defaults to this cyan color, which you just can't see at all. I like to change mine to orange. You can change it to any brighter color so you can actually see it. And so I'm going to change mine, and I'm going to keep the view threshold at 5%. So now I'm going to go to the first grid line that brings me close to 3.25. So I'm going to show you a hierarchy grid, basically a rule of thirds grid. And I'm pulling them down on both sides. Wait a minute. Hold on. Am I working? What am I working on? Okay, I'm working on my first page. I've already made a mistake. And this is what I do all the time. So I'm glad I'm doing it for you too, because I literally do this all the time. I start building my grids on this first working page. Where do I want to build my grid? Up here in the master page, right? Or the parent page. We want to be up here. So it happens on all the pages. So I'm going to select my parent pages up at the very top. And I'm going to do the same thing. So now I'm going to bring my grid, my ruler guides down to the 3.25, the closest baseline grid to 3.25, because I want to stay working within my baseline grid. Pull those guys down. And I'm going to go down to 6.25-ish. And 6.25-ish. There they are. And I'm going to bring them down on this side too. Okay. So I've divided my page into thirds. So now I'm going to be part of what I'm going to be working on for my design is a rule of thirds. If we're going to do a modular grid, we would make a modular, another grid option. And I can make 2 different ones if I want to explore the 2 different ones. So I have a parent A, which is going to be the rule of thirds. I'm going to take this, I'm going to copy it by pulling it down to this little plus symbol. And the B parent is I'm going to make that one a modular grid just to explore it. And I'm going to call it modular. I'm going to bring a rectangle over here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do something different. I'll take these guys off. I'm on the B parent. I'm going to go to layout, margins and columns. Or not margins and columns. Nope. Create guides. Create guides. And I'm going to leave my columns empty because I already have my columns. I'm going to do rows. And I'm going to fit the guides to the margin. And I'm going to kind of explore how many rows I want. Now I have 7 columns. I don't know, maybe let's see what 14 looks like if I double it. That might be too many. Let's try create guides. Let's try maybe 10. That seems better. So what I'm going to do is, you can see they're not lining up to my baseline grid. I'm going to just take these manually and slide them so they're sitting. You can use your arrow keys as well, so that they're sitting right on your grid. I find this faster than drawing them all, each one individually. And I'm just moving them to the closest baseline grid alignment that is closest to them. Okay, that one rounded up. Anyway, so this way, once I get this done, I'm making it on a parent page, so I can really move it, add it to different layouts that I might want to try. I can try both 2 different now grids just by switching out the parent page to see which one might be the one that fits what I want to do better. I have a few options. Or I might even want to say that I want to use the rule of thirds for my first spread and then move into the modular grid for the second and third spreads. So there's a couple different ways you can look at it. I think I'm going to try that. I'm going to say, this is my modular grid. I'm going to put the modular on page 4, 5, 6, and 7, and leave the rule of thirds for the first spread. Just because I have fewer elements I'm putting on that. So it might make more sense for me. You don't have to do that way, but these are the things you can experiment with. Okay, so once I have the grid set up, is there any questions as I have set up my grids? Let's go ahead and save our documents just so we have put all this work in, we don't accidentally lose it somehow. So go ahead and save it. And into your folder on project 2. Okay, so I've saved it. Now my next thing I want to set up is, I have a couple things. I have my Creative Cloud libraries. This is where I would probably at this point make a new library. I have my class set up. I'm in my class, but I want to set up a new folder specifically for project 2. So I think I would go ahead and set up project 2. I'm gonna call it project 2 travel. Editorial. Okay, so I have my new project to, and it's saying I can drop and drag elements. I can also create subgroups. So this is now when I go ahead and make new paragraph styles and character styles, or new color palettes that I've already kind of explored, I can all bring them into my libraries. So I think at this point, are we all comfortable adding things to our libraries? Okay, awesome. The next thing I want to set up, while we're still on our master pages, I just realized there's one thing I don't want to forget, and that is, let's get ahead and make our page numbers. I'm going to go ahead and work on my parent B. So I'm going to go up here. I'm still on my parent pages. I'm going to zoom in to the bottom margin. I made my bottom margin extra big because I wanted to leave room in the margin for my folio. So I'm going to take my type tool and create a type frame. I'm going to bring a guideline over to margin, give me a line along the margin, so I can line up that type frame. And I'm just going to put a page number in and call it, and then identify 6 hours in I don't know where, we don't have any German. I should do a city, not Germany. Let's do a city. Oh, I know. Do Cork. All right, so I want to maybe do something where I divide my city, my number, because I have number in my headline plus the page number. I don't want to confuse things, so I added this little divider line. I can now design my type here based on whatever typeface I'm going to be using on my design. So I'm going to use photo, and I'm going to make the folio text a different color that I can either pull up from my color libraries or from my color picker. I think actually I'll use my library. I'm going to go into my library. I'm going to assume it's this one. I'm going to pick one of these purples. There we go. Pick a different purple for that line. And I'm going to let the page number stay black and bold. Okay, so that's the design I've made for my folio. I'm going to bring a guide down so I can create a baseline because I'm outside of my baseline grid. And I'm going to bring a guideline down to my second page in my master. I'm going to grab a copy of the type frame over here. I'm going to bring it over, bring another guide down. Command V to paste. I'm lining this up. First, I'm going to line it up the baseline. And then I'm going to go over here to my, I'm going to select my type and then go at the top toolbar here, and I can make it flush right. And then what I need to do is move these two items to keep my page number on the outside of the page. So I'm going to take, and I'm just cutting and pasting. So cutting is Command X and pasting is Command V. And I'm keeping everything flush right so that I now have my master. I got the page numbers, the folios set up on both sides of the parent page. And so now I'm going to select the page number itself. And I'm going to go to type, insert special character, markers, current page number. And again, I'm on my parent page. No, I'm not, because it's showing me a page number. What did I do? Nope, I'm not. See, I screwed up again. I'm gonna hold the shift key down, select both of these guys. Command X to cut them off because I'm accidentally on page 2 and 3. I want to be up here on my parent pages. And put them on. Command V to paste. I'm gonna bring them down here. I'm gonna bring my guidelines back. So I can organize everybody. Get them all where I want them. Okay. I'm gonna zoom in so I can get this guy to line up correctly. There we go. I have that lining up. Oop. That lining up. Okay, now I'm gonna select the number and I'm gonna go to type, insert special character, markers, current page number. And it says B. That tells me I'm on master B. Do that over here. Type, insert special character, current page number, B. Okay, if it doesn't say B or A, depending on which master page you're on, it means you're down. If it says 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that means you are on a regular page. And the reason you need to be up here on these parent pages is because we want to make something to happen universally on all our pages. So we didn't do anything to A, so A doesn't have the page number. But if we go here to 4 and 5, you'll now see that there's page 4 and 5. And if we go to 6 and 7, there is page 6 and page 7. So everyone has a page number that's going to continue to auto populate with every page we add. Okay, so we have that, those master, anything we do up here will happen down here. So the next thing is we want to be automating this because we're doing 3 spreads. We want to get things to be done as easily as possible. We just explored type. So the next natural thing would be to grab one of your type studies that you feel strongly about and bringing that over here. And you can just bring it into one of your regular pages. And for the moment, I don't have my type here, so I'm just going to insert with placeholders text just for my reasons. You're going to actually use your actual type. Okay, so here's my body copy that I'm bringing in. And I want you to notice when I just create a frame, it doesn't line up on this baseline grid. When I create a frame, I don't have it selecting to anything. It's not clicking into my columns. It's not clicking onto the grid. It's just floating. So I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to set up my paragraph styles so that every type I bring in, I can start saving it. Now, we've done this, we did this last class, but it doesn't hurt to kind of do it again. I've selected my copy. I now want to choose the typeface I want to use. I want to set it up right now. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my typeface. So I'm going to choose I'm going to choose Meta Pro Normal, and I'm going to be working in 9-point type, and I want my leading to be 12-point. And I am going to, like, this feels good to me. That's what I want it to be. I'm going to go over here to my paragraph styles, and I can either go here to the hamburger window and say new paragraph style, or I can go down here to this little create new style button. Okay, I can create a new style, double click on it, and then base it on what this is, and I'm going to call this body. You want to label these so you know what they are. Okay. And I've selected it, so it's taking it off of what I've selected. And I'm going to say 2 things I want you to pay attention to is indents and spacing. And I want you to go over here to align to grid and say all lines. And as soon as I do that, notice how the type now just locked itself down to that baseline. So now you can see that the baseline is the type is sitting on the baseline grid. And that's great. I'm going to say, okay, that's what I want. So here's my body copy. That's my first type. And I go to move this. If I go to move this anywhere, it won't not lock to the baseline grid. And that's what we want. We want to keep it on the baseline grid so that all of our elements stay locked to the grid. Now you're still going to be responsible for locking it into place up against these columns that we've created. It's not going to lock to the columns. It's going to lock to the baseline. It'll be up to you to make sure that you don't have things ending in the middle of a column or starting in the middle of a column, right? You want to make sure you start your bodies of copy up against the edge of a column and you end it at the edge of a column. Does that make sense? Okay, so let me practice a headline and setting that up. So we're going to have lots of hierarchy. Actually, let me zoom in here a little closer. We have a couple things. We're going to have days of the week. So we're going to have Thursday. Then we're going to have 10 o'clock a.m. And then we're going to have sub headline about activity. And then we're going to have the body copy. So you basically are going to have these 3 levels and then the body copy. Okay. So you have to decide, like, how are we going to organize these things? Now, they can all still be the same body, the same font or typeface within the same type family as the body copy, but you might not. So I've chosen meta and I'm using normal for my body copy. But for the day of the week, which is like a top tier headline, it's not as big as the headline of the entire article, but it is important, like a secondary level. So I might want to go more of a medium, and I might choose a scale that's a little bigger because there's only 3 days of the week we're going to be featuring, right? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, oh no, Sunday. We have 4 days, right? Sunday included. So I'm gonna, what the heck? I'm gonna go to 20. And then I might decide, okay, now I need to think about the number. And do I want, my AM to be all uppercase, or I want it to be lowercase? I don't know. What are we going to do? And then what typeface and what color and how are these things going to be? So I'm going to stay in my same typeface, but now I might go, maybe I make that very light, because the time of the day isn't probably the most important thing. What do we think our most important thing is about each one of these?
The name of the activity.
Right. The name of the activity is more important than the time or even the day of the week. But the day of the week is kind of just like a storytelling, a way to tell the story. So I might make the name of Thursday really big, But then I might go to my library, back to my color palette and say, yeah, but I think I might make it this kind of very soft color. I'm going to make it big, but I'm not going to make it like such a bright color. But maybe I want to take this guy and make that more important. And maybe, so you see what I'm saying? So you can play with how these are the hierarchy things you're going to need to start thinking about. And it's something that you might want to explore some more type studies of, using these levels of hierarchy that you're going to be using throughout this piece. And then you go into your body copy and you have to ask yourself, do I start the body copy right here, right away after the headline? Do I give it a space? You know, do I have this sitting on the same line as the time? These are all decisions you have to make. And so those are some things I want you to think about. And so once you've kind of come up with a design that you're feeling good about, you then want to go over here back to paragraph styles and start putting these into paragraph styles. So I'm going to say I need a new paragraph style, and that's going to be days of the week. And I'm going to just make sure that because I copied it from my body copy, it's already going to be on that aligned to grid. So I don't have to worry about going back to that setting anymore. And the other thing is, you can see I have added a color here. So if I go to character color, you can see it's already identified the character color in my style options. So I'm going to say okay. And days of the week is now a style. And I'm going to keep going. I'm going to say create a new style, move it down to here. And I'm going to say time of day. Oops, hold on a minute. Wrong thing. Time of day. Okay, and then say okay. Excellent. Now I'm going to grab here. I'm going to say another, and I'm going to go to paragraph style and call this activity subhead. And I'm trying to be really descriptive in my paragraph style names, because if I'm working in a design firm and I'm out sick one day, or this project, I get handed a new project and someone else has to take over this project for me, which happens all the time. I want, if Lexi's going to take this over for me, I want her to be able to really easily go through my paragraph styles and to be able to take over where I left off and say, oh, I see, there's her body copy, there's the activity subhead, there's the time of day, there's the days of the week. It couldn't be easier for someone else to pick this up and keep going, right? So these are just habits you want to get into so that when you're out in the world, changing the world as you will, you're everybody's best friend when they take over your file. You don't want to be everybody's enemy because you have like such a sloppy, messy file and no one knows where anything is. You want to be like people buying you lunch because you made their job so easy. That's what you want. Okay, is there any questions about how to start setting up our paragraph styles? I know we did the activity last class, but now we're going to be doing it for real. No? All right. I have another cool thing we can think about in regards to kind of getting ourselves set up and going. So the first thing is I want you all, because I don't really know that anyone really did this, is start to think about these levels of hierarchy that we have in this design that need to incorporate. So think about that. How are you organizing that? You probably don't as much need to make a paragraph style for your big header for the whole article, the 36 hours. But the thing I do want you to think about is the 36 hours in, where did I say I was? Oh, Cork. This is something that's an opportunity to really design use some typographic design to really make this a special headline, because this is a series. This is a series that comes out every week with a new place, the 36 hours is. So thinking about what you can do to make this unique and different that maybe is going to be something that you feels like it's part of a series. And so I'm going to go here and do like 200. Wait, where did it go? Maybe it made it too big. Okay, so this is going to go up here on my first page, 36 hours. So maybe this is too big, but I did a 200. Who knew? Let's go 150 maybe. Okay. And then decide, or do I want the numbers to be really big? And maybe these kind of go down in size. Whenever you see this little red dot here, like you're seeing happen right here, it means there's more type. So let's say I want to bring that out and put it in, so I have 2 text boxes. I can just draw another text box, open it up, and then I can see the rest of my copy. So here's work, and I can kind of play with like, how is that going to work? How do I want to, explore what that could be? Maybe the hours needs to be, oh, I got cork as part of that. Pull that out. So you can kind of really explore what you might be doing. And you can think about like, okay, how do these all like fit together? Is there something that I want to explore layering or what have you? Maybe I want to bring hours out of this as well. And I can do it a couple ways. I can either close up my box so I only see 36, and then I can see hours are in its own box. I close up the box, and then I can still see this red box here with another, oops, it made it really skinny. And there's cork. So now I have all 3 in a different type box, but they're all linked. They're all still linked, but it's allowing me to play with them separately versus having them all in the same type box. So you can do that as well as you're designing. And so these are some things that you can kind of explore and play with. Okay, I'm going to pause here and see how many questions we have. I'm going to stop the sharing and the recording here.